Humans are mentally weak. When we think with our emotions, we can't find answers rationally. Humans escape from their memories. Humans also have the ability to not think.
This is the line uttered from Ryo to Akira when the latter expresses a lack of control over his recent emotions. The former goes on to mention the vices of the human race, like gambling, alcohol, and sex, dropping a pile of money at Akira and suggesting he should take a hint from the rest of the human race and bury his mental weakness in this depravity. The pair is on a mission to make the world at large aware of demons, these hellish monsters with destructive power supposedly lacking a heart, but with the ability to merge their beings with other creatures. When they do this with humans, there are two results. They either overcome the human and use their body, or in rare cases, the human maintains control and receives the heightened abilities of a demon. They become a devilman, a demon with the heart of a human. Akira is one of these, manipulated by Ryo into a situation where he had no choice but to accept a demon into him to survive. This occurred at a Sabbath party, the massive events of open sex, free drugs, and with the right conditions, violence too. Ryo, in trying to summon a demon with the addition of violence to the debauchery, begins killing indiscriminately, saying how no one should worry about using scum like these as the cost of showing the world truth. He succeeds in his goal as a demon is summoned, with Akira taking control over Amon at the last second, just in time to save himself and Ryo. This pair of childhood friends goes on to fight more demons, devilmen, and humans alike in service of showing the world truth. But Ryo has ulterior motives locked in his subconscious. In reality, Ryo is a fallen angel. No, in fact, the fallen angel, Satan. He plans to retake the world for demons who once ruled over it, wiping humanity off the earth to make room, before they then challenge God for smiting them so long ago. The eradication of humanity is already awful, a bloody, horrific affair, the secret fear within all of us. Ryo plays to that. He doesn't have to do this work of extinction himself. His plan of revealing demons to the greater public is a psychological tactic to induce mass hysteria across the entire human race, at which point they'd fall to easy manipulation, obvious lies, and their own sense of survival over others. They'd be consumed by their vices and mundane evils and self-destruct in terrible fashion, as the weapons once touted as defense are turned on civilians who are too busy stabbing each other in the back to even notice. He clearly doesn't have much faith in humanity, and it seems ridiculous to believe that the presence of demonic beings would cause us to hate each other rather than, say, unite against a common foe, one apparently so dangerous. Surely his plan would fail and the heroes would come out on top as they always do. But he's exactly right. Humanity is proved awful. No force of good saves the day, and our hero Akira himself even comes to the harsh conclusion that humans are the real devils after they destroyed everything he fought and cared for with no reason other than their desire to hate. Ryo is proved right in his hatred of the human race in much more than just the ending. Because it is art, it's possible to debate the true meaning of Devilman Crybaby. Now, for me, the series is an exercise in many themes. There are elements of growing up, of envy, of family, but most of them fail due to its clearly rushed runtime, and all of them are overshadowed by a prevailing sense of meaninglessness coming to a head in the nihilistic ending of Rapture, when neither demons nor humans receive the Earth. It is simply destroyed once again by God to make a clean start. Everything we witness in the prior 9 episodes is not something meaningful, but is simply evidence to this ultimately defeatist ending and the claims of a mad angel who brings such a truth forward. Humans are awful. They're easily overcome by the demons, who then use their bodies to perform awful actions. To fight off such foes, they rely on weapons, machines of destruction made to compensate for our own weakness and careless development. This feels especially poignant as eradication could not come so swiftly without the tools of war the anime so clearly shows. Their destruction is manipulated, but achieved through their own tools. When they need to get stronger without weapons, they rely on drugs to enhance their physical forms or use the power of demons for personal gain. Their emotions are a mess, not leading just to drinking and gambling, but spending their entire lives trying to defeat a single line or idea that no one ever actually said. Mako accepts becoming a demon simply so she can beat Miki in a race and take back that name for herself. All of that for just a name. The emotions of humans are careless, dangerous things. Their impulses take over, leading them to take what they desire at the cost of everyone around them. Rather than actual connection, they inhibit their mental state, forget their very being to slip into a night of boundless and indulgent pleasure they won't even remember by the next day. And as we see at the end, they're self-destructive. Out of overwhelming fear, their world implodes. They believe clear lies for the sake of simplicity, acting on the 1% chance that anyone could be a demon and deciding that all that's left is to kill or be killed. The eye for an eye mentality that leaves this world blind and dead. Tied to pillars and beaten, burned in their homes, or chased down and stabbed in the back, the violence goes further than simply killing devils. It becomes a joy, like a habit they'd always harbored deep down, and now get the chance to act upon. Evil was not created, it was simply brought forward. The series is an exercise in proving Rio right. The hopeless feeling is furthered by the fact that not every human we witness is awful. Some are truly righteous and well-meaning, ones who stand out and help where no one else would, who hold steadfast to strong beliefs and act on them whatever the personal cost. They're so perfectly moral in such a heinous world, they feel almost unrealistic and boring. But this comes crashing back down to earth when we see through them that one need not personally fall to darkness. Those who have will drag them down anyway. This is Miki's family, Kozo the father, Akiko the mother, and Taro the second child, the most vanilla-looking group of humans to ever exist. They're painfully boring for almost the entire series, at most giving laughs through their younger child's references to the original Devilman anime. Everything they do is exactly what you'd write for the idealistic, plain family that deep down we would all trade an interesting life for. That kind of love and stability that seems so far. I can hardly even bring myself to write out a list of 3 things that would describe them as I would with any other topic to provide it validity, because there's nothing interesting to note about them at all. They're nothing more than generically good souls, gracing this world, taking in the child of a family friend without question. I don't want to ruin that perfectly average nature they have, because although they're not quite engaging characters, since they're dreadfully boring down to even the most plain designs of all time, that kind of feels like the point. They're supposed to feel disgustingly pure and kind-hearted. They all face the tragedy of the wicked despite being themselves pure. It's a father who, despite the world going to literal hell, continues reading Bible passages to his son, ones that speak of those who live by the sword dying by it as well, affirming in his child that no matter what, kindness and a calm head can win. He's reading to him the literal opposite of demons, a verse from the Holy Scripture. And yet, his son becomes a Devilman in the midst of the chaotic new world Rio creates. Overcome with the urge to feast, Tare kills and eats a dog, to his mother's horror. She takes him and flees to one of the refugee camps set up in the wake of demons being revealed. That way she can protect all of her family at once, staying by her son's side while ensuring her husband and daughter are far from the danger his hunger brings. But her kindness goes further. As they sit in church at this camp, once again believing in the best while seeing only the worst, Tare is urged on by his hunger once more. She reassures him softly that it'll be okay, that they should go somewhere more private while he deals with it. Meanwhile, Kozo went out searching for the two, where he finally sees just how awful this world can be. Demon and human alike are shot down before him, their blood landing on his face just after they themselves tried to spill his. Suicide, starvation, mindless cruelty, he sees it all in this journey, finally witnessing the world he had shielded himself and his family from. It's overwhelming, an affront to everything he instilled in his children, and he furthers this affront by grabbing a gun before fleeing the scene. The righteous man, now forced to pick up the sword he'll both live and die by. Like the rest of humanity, he can't hold back his own will to survive against such harsh odds. With his weapon in hand, he finds his son and his wife, although maybe it would be better if he hadn't. Tare gave in to his hunger and feasted on his own mother, halfway through just as his father witnessed. Here we see the final act of kindness by those beaten down by literal hell on earth. a mother who gave her own body for the sake of her son and the strangers around them. To prolong his life and ensure no one else suffered, her flesh became his future, even if only for a few days or hours. And is there any other point? It seems clear things could never recover and that the end was assured. Kozo shows his first signs of life throughout the series, witnessing this death, presenting us with an extended scene of anguish. This made his boring nature for so long worthwhile. It's one of the anime's few truly well-paced and powerful scenes. A father who knows the best thing he can do is killing his own son, wanting to enrage for losing his wife, but recognizing that even a monster is still his son. He suffers back and forth on life or death, unable to pull the trigger until he's blasted away by a firing squad aiming through him to his son. In the end, he's just another casualty of war. Another of the thousands of human lives lost to kill just a handful of demons. He was killed by the sword that he never even lived by. All he needed to do was take a passing glance at the weapon of the wicked, and that was enough for this world to kill him as well. What led to this kind of destruction? Was it true purity or simply shelter from a world which already was harsh, just in the ways they could look away from while quoting the Bible? What destroyed this family? It doesn't matter either way. They died to the same humanity. Of course, there's Miki as well. We could point to any number of her interactions from the series, but most relevant comes halfway through when a false alarm at a store she's in leads to a panicked pair of police officers almost shooting a few recurring characters. A group of local musicians, ones who act almost as muses, rapping about the awful nature of this world over scenes of it, giving us a look into the thoughts of the characters, but their appearance gets them easily judged as the culprits of a non-existent crime. The simple claim that they have a firearm and this instant judgment based on appearance is enough to induce a mass panic that escalates. A few words and assumptions with a dose of misunderstanding and pride almost creates a tragedy, but the same thing prevents it. Miki scolds both the officers and the resistive man, saying, how could professionals be wavered so easily, and why would someone put themselves in such danger for no reason? And when neither is satisfied with being wrong or wrongly accused and attempts to continue the resolution, she shoots them down once more, knowing that ending the conflict and moving on is most important. A lot of people were around, but none even came close to doing this rather simple thing she did. The musicians, led by Wamu, are thankful for her help and praise her as they begin to develop a lasting friendship. She pulled long-term positivity from instant negativity, which is really the summary of her character. In the midst of this world's harshest aspect, she maintains a hopeful course, even in the era of hell on earth, calling for togetherness and love. We really have to keep in mind that she once settled mass hysteria with simple words. She really showed how easy it could be with simple thought and good intent to avoid the tragedy of panic. Because this is exactly what the human race devolves into in Devilman Crybaby, and what leads directly to her death. Ryo leaks to the world that Akira is a Devilman, and it's reported that he's staying at Miki's house as he went there to protect her after her family's deaths. He leaves so as not to put them in any more danger, making it clear he's gone, but the human race is too far gone themselves for such an effort to have any effect, for even simple consideration to be had. Even though Akira isn't there, the self-preserving brutality of the human race drives them to kill every inhabitant anyway. As far as the mob is concerned, a few human lives lost are worth it to possibly stop even just one demon, or even just to judge those who harbored one, maybe even unknowingly. Maybe they were hostages to a cruel demon. There's any number of things which could explain this arrangement, but such thought is too much for those who abandon sanity for barbarism. What is so disturbing here is not the death and suffering, not humans driven mad by panic for their lives, but that such a state is enjoyed. When these murderers track down Miki, who escaped due to Wamu's sacrifice, they bring his body with them, dropping it on the ground before her as they open the car door. They brought it all the way here just for this, and it's so that they can brutally slice open her back, and before she can even bleed out from such a wound, proceed to decapitate her. They take the bodies all the way back to the house, dismember them, and celebrate outside the blaze, holding the limbs of those they killed on pikes, delighted in their actions. It's not the blood and gore that's disgusting here. These silhouettes are revealing but mask most of the visual horror. What we said are instead very simple and plain visuals to tell the truth. What sticks here is the feeling behind what we see. Victory. A human race which has declared true and proud in their actions that this is just, fair, and the right path forward. It's like a sports team that just won the championship, cheering and delighting. It's not the body parts themselves that evoke such horror, but the way they move, the way such heinous death physically represents their joy. It's familiar and haunting in that. It's witnessing something we've seen before at its absolute worst. At our absolute worst. Miki was a single bright spot in this world, bringing together a Devilman coalition in one of her final acts, kind, even against those who could kill her in a single strike until the very end. And this is the fate she has. There is no redemption once the loss of that kind of life becomes celebrated victory. And from there, humanity only goes on to destroy itself. Satan doesn't join the fight to end humanity until nearly all the destruction has already been wrought. The end of the world is one of tanks, guns, missiles, the creations of the darkest recesses of the human mind, given life in the light by our own worst fears and twisted desires. Miniseries question if humanity is inherently good or evil. But in Devilman Crybaby, there is no question. We are endlessly wicked. We are the architects of our own destruction, and there is no saving us. Given that even Rio ends the series by finally experiencing human emotion before God resets the earth in Rapture, I stand by calling the series a piece of defeatist nihilism. It isn't good enough to have a well-developed overarching theme, but it does provide us with a picture of humanity at its worst, reaching the conclusion that in this fictional exaggeration there is no redemption. And that, mixed with its exceptionally graphic nature, makes it a sort of meta-narrative. It shows us the worst humanity has, in brutal fashion, meant to disgust and horrify us. It pairs the emotions that could lead to our destruction with the feeling of unease gained from such graphic depictions. It makes you feel little bits of the end of the world in a way that sticks with you. It haunts your brain for a few days after you see it. Art is reflective of reality, and so Devilman Crybaby is commenting on the hysteria which can drive us to destruction, the feelings behind that hysteria. From the hoarding of goods for survival to witch trials, we've witnessed how easy it is for a human to decide that they matter above all. A trait no one can be blamed for. We receive one life and we must live it to the fullest out of respect for what it means to even be human. But this drive means we will always harbor a certain darkness of preservation. How can we conquer such an inherent feeling, such an evolutionary feeling? How do we confront the darkness of our souls without succumbing to it? Throughout human history, story has been one method for this. I'm not personally familiar with biblical references, but Devilman Crybaby is essentially one huge reference to the Rapture. The Bible itself even includes stories which tell the very worst potential of humans in order to guide us in what not to be, showing just a small slice of how far back this idea goes. And this leads us to somewhat of a debate. Is dark media good? Is there a point to witnessing such messed up things in what we consume in our free time, or should entertainment focus rather on the good of humanity instead, on escapism? If you've been around here for a while, then you can guess where I'll stand on this debate. I cannot deny that as someone who enjoys dark stories, I have a bias to say they are helpful to the human cause. But I would like to argue their point nonetheless. Because I kind of hate Devilman Crybaby. The pacing is dreadful, leading to forced emotional moments that don't land, clunky metaphors that are picked up and dropped so frequently they have no means to develop into anything with any sort of meaning, and its nature as an adaptation led to the shoehorning of old characters into pointless roles to fill a quota. It's not a good anime, but it's one I'll defend for being so endlessly messed up, a good quality of it. A few moments shine through when given the proper time and care, and they're the most shocking ones of the entire anime. Heads on pikes and fathers torn apart by bullets before they can mercy kill their own children. I thought about originally making this a look at what others had argued in favor of dark stories before me, but I think instead I wanted to add my own take after watching some of these awful scenes again and again. What strikes me is that these scenes are something I want to witness so little. I've never, of my own volition, sought out gore or dismemberment. I've been in rooms where people around me watch these videos, gleefully pass around the phone showing executions or shotguns to the head. Every time I've left, but it wasn't always an option. This happened in workplaces too. If you ever wonder why I hate my career path so much, I don't want to be around those things, and I think I am very fairly justified in harshly judging the enjoyment I saw on people's faces from seeing these things and then laughing and joking at the genuine loss of life they were so detached from. I wanted to vomit, because those were once lives, the ones like we all live, cut short. I don't want to see that, but it exists. If we as humans ever want to create a world without such brutality, we need to be aware of it, to confront it and its factors to some degree. We can't simply ignore darkness which truly exists. You cannot tame a foe which is invisible. We make no progress with our eyes closed. Yet it would also be wrong to say we must bear witness to these things by force. I stand by stories which include them when done with purpose, because they are a more comfortable way to confront what we must. It may feel like a disgusting betrayal to begin a story, get suckered in caring for its characters or wanting to uncover its plot, only to be witness to violence or extreme gore. But that is a powerful feeling. It is not the detached laughs of a link to 4chan and joking about the loss of a life you never knew. It's seeing someone you care about becoming the product of absolute tragedy. It leaves a lasting impression, sticks in your mind, and ties a hatred for such things to these events. Seeing them makes me feel quite physically ill. For about a week, after I've seen them for the first time, I'll sit and stew with what I've witnessed, playing it over in my mind and processing it. I can't work well, I struggle to eat or fall asleep. Conversing is hard because there's only one thing on my mind, and I absolutely hate it. Some of these stories are dark enough that I dare not even go over the specific details, as they were done in a way which wasn't meaningful and rather simply disgusted me for no more reason than that. But the ones which have a purpose to their disgust, I replay to understand. Why were we shown this? Why this character? Who was left to witness it? How do they deal with it? Eventually, it recedes into my mind as just any other story. Something I'll recall bits and pieces of, the sections I found worthy of memory and committed to my mind. For Devilman Crybaby, it is the abhorrent sections of violence. It is the hopeless ending of complete destruction. It is how such an ending was deserved by almost all, and finally delivered because they killed those who deserved better and opened the door for wrath from above. There was no one left that he had to feel pained by killing. It paints a hopeless picture of humanity, and its shocking nature then begins to address its own ending to us. We have the potential to be completely irredeemable. That is human. We can all be evil in the right situations. The most righteous of men may still pick up and die by the sword. The most pure of heart can still have it ripped out. We have to be aware of how awful we can be, and then not be so. Devilman Crybaby is not good, but I respect its willingness to be as dark as it was, and through that create a real-life meaning to a quite meaningless piece of fiction. I don't want to spoil this ending with too much additional talk at the end, but I do want to address that this video is going to be branded differently. The title is not going to have Devilman Crybaby in it, and I guess in that way is going to be a bit more like clickbait. It'll seem like a generic topic, and then won't be, and I do apologize for that, but at the end of the day, I have to consider running this channel like a business as much as it pains me, and doing what does well because I need it to grow so I can stop working such excessively long hours. So I do apologize for that. If it doesn't do well or if it's genuinely upsetting, I will avoid from doing it again, but I just wanted to be very transparent in letting you know about the branding of the video and hoping that it wasn't too bad. I am planning some better generic topics coming up, but it involves a lot of processing my own emotions, and there's been very little time for that recently. But I think this was a good step towards that. I have a few more better read and more emotional, if single topic scripts coming up. So I'm excited for those and hope you are as well. If you're really excited, there's some important links in the pinned comment, Discord, Twitter, I guess, and Patreon, really importantly. These lovely people above me help support and really reduce a lot of that stress I have in trying to make this work. So a big thank you there, but obviously thank you to everyone. And as always, I hope I'll see you again soon.